Certainly not the first time we've led off with this particular Orwell quote. If you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. Those of you who are familiar with the work 1984, whether you read the book or whether you saw the movie version, you know the scene from which this particular line is derived. It's O'Brien, the Ministry of Truth, and he's got Winston in interrogation. He's trying to break him. You've often heard me say that I can determine where a person's political leanings are by what they refer to as Orwellian and in what context. Political left are masters of that Orwellian twist of phrase, twist of historical maxims to support their narrative by giving it to you devoid of any historical context. One particular term that is in the current cultural zeitgeist being used to that very end is the term bootlicker. They have turned that one around on us. They hold themselves up as the resistance, and for our mere cleaving to basic civilization, basic tenets of law and order, we are deemed bootlickers. They've turned some of our old maxims against us. The "don't tread on me" has now been turned into this meme: "Ugh, tread on me harder, daddy." They are holding themselves up as the moral equivalent of the founders, but predictably they are doing it without any sense of historical context. And for the sake of this opener, I'm going to try to put a little context on that very thing with regard to one of the founders that is often overlooked in U.S. history, and that's a fellow by the name of John Adams. John Adams, the man that told us liberty, once lost, is lost forever. Now, the very people who are seeking to undermine Western civilization are trying to paint themselves up in the cloaks of the founders. They are the ones defending liberty from authoritarian dictatorship and whatnot, but they're giving it to you completely without context. And the last thing that they know of is context with regard to this founder in particular. Little word about John Adams. You should check out the book, right? It's a very big book. It's a very long read, but it's worth the read. And if you're not going to do that, at least check out the mini series where Paul Giamatti played the role of that famous founder. It'll give you a little bit of insight. Certainly never as good as the book, but worth the watch at the very least. Here's another little quote from Adams, and I'll give it to you in two pieces so you have a full width and breadth of the context. Posterity, you will never know how much it cost the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope that you will make a good use of it. Well, you know my hashtag, finish the sentence. Posterity, you will never know how much it cost the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it. If you do not, I shall repent in heaven that I ever took half the pains to preserve it. Do you know the nature of those pains? We're going to throw it back into the context of the word bootlicker. See, about 6 years before the Declaration of Independence, in 1770, thing took place in Boston called the Boston Massacre. They were protesting the British occupation of Boston. The British troops were there to enforce law and order, as it were. They were set upon by colonists who were throwing snowballs. Things quickly snowballed out of control, and a number of the citizens of the city of Boston were shot down by British troops. Now, the British troops were immediately apprehended. They were put on trial and they would have been lynched, but they got a full due process and legal defense, courtesy of one John Adams. That's right. John Adams, this is a scene from the aforementioned docudrama or the historical representation with Paul Giamatti. He provided the defense for those British soldiers who had been accused of firing on Boston colonists. Think about that for a minute. Wouldn't that make him, by definition, a bootlicker? Was he not, in fact, a bootlicker for the British in advocating for due process of these men? Now, some people would have made that case, and the case isn't entirely without merit, but let's see what that really says about John Adams as a man and the mind of this man. You see, he while being labeled a bootlicker for providing defense for these British soldiers. He preferred the law and order that people at least had some voice in to the rule of the mob. The rule of the mob. Mob rule. Etymology of the word democracy. I'm going to tie this all in, guys. Make sure you track and make sure you stay with me. Jefferson once said, speaking of the founders, that a democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49. We didn't need Jefferson to tell us that. That sentiment goes all the way back to Plato. Democracy leads to anarchy, which is what? Mob rule. John Adams took a principled stand. He stood with law and order because that law and order, no matter how distasteful to people at the time, was still preferable to the rule of the mob. That mob rule, that democracy. And who is always telling us about the importance of preserving democracy? Not the constitutional republic, which we became, but the dangers to our democracy, the threats to our democracy that must be defended against. Who are those people? Yeah, you're looking at the front runners right here, the ones that talk the loudest about democracy. But where is their democracy really rooted in anything but mob rule when you view the acts of their foot soldiers on the ground? How are we supposed to take seriously worries about our democracy from the likes of people like, well, everyone's favorite dimwit, this talking point with feet, and some of her political allies, when they're talking about democracy but aligning behind a what? An avowed Marxist. We're going to align behind a devout Marxist for the sake of preserving our democracy? What's really going on here? And on the foreign policy front, they're talking about defending democracy. Ukraine, perfect example. We're going to defend democracy without mentioning that this democracy that they're protecting suspended elections, outlawed all opposition parties, seized control of all media, and actually went into churches and arrested priests for not supporting their government. Yes, indeed, we must protect democracy at all costs. And again, these are the same people that would have called John Adams a bootlicker for the sake of defending due process and law and order. Let's go a little bit deeper with Mr. Adams. What did he say about democracy? Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There was never a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. Let's finish the quote. Wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. Never a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. Why? Because of the rule of the mob. It is vain because the mob is made up of what? Individuals with those individual flaws elevated to banding together as a mob with a mob rule and a mob mentality. It is vain to say that democracy is less vain, less proud, less selfish, less ambitious, or less avaricious than aristocracy or monarchy. It is not true, in fact, and nowhere appears in history. Those passions are the same in all men, under all forms of simple government, and when unchecked, produce the same effects of fraud, violence, and cruelty. We get to see that put into practice. The same people talking about the importance of democracy, the same people talking about fighting authoritarianism. This crowd here, the no kings crowd, yeah, got to defend that democracy, at least until the democracy generates the authoritarianism that they want. The same no kings people, let's remember where they were not so very long ago, thanking their government, protecting me from a flu by completely destroying my livelihood, my job, my income, my marriage, my family, my health, my freedoms, and my liberties. That boot there in the graphic, stamping on that human face forever. Where was their concern for democracy then? Where was their problem with being a bootlicker then? That same hypocrisy thrown into a starker contrast by the No Kings rally. No kings, but put your mask on. Bootlicker. No kings, but lock us down. Bootlicker. No kings, but I'm firing you for not vaccinating. No kings, but you can't go outside. You can read for yourself. I won't belabor it. 12,380 boosters, can't go to church. Your family members will die alone. Where was their concern about democracy then? Where was their concern about being a bootlicker then? It's all performative, it's all duplicitous, and it's all disingenuous. That's my college word. I've got like 3 of those. Taking it back to John Adams, our Constitution, now remember, our founders weren't Christians. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people and is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Finish the sentence. Let's give this one a prequel. We have no government armed in power capable of contending in human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people and is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. A moral and religious people? Let's look at the very mob calling us bootlickers. Let's look at the very mob seeking to preserve their democracy, their precious democracy. Does this look like a moral and religious people? These guys protesting outside a courthouse building for Don Lemon waving dildos around? How about this for a moral and religious people burning down cities? How about this for a moral and religious people defending democracy at the Folsom Street Fair? How about this? Or these fellas, our favorites, the black masked maggot militia. How about these fellas? Moral and religious people? No, our Constitution wasn't meant to govern these people for sure. And they're going to be the first to remind you of it, even as they pay lip service to defending democracy. Well, they are defending democracy, their type of democracy, which comes down to mob rule. They would have you believe that they are rooted in the ideologies of these men. That's how they paint themselves in that imaginary moral fabric and that imaginary moral high ground. I submit to you, sir or madam, that they've got infinitely more in common with these people, because that mob rule is going to disintegrate, as we'll talk about later when we get into the French Revolution. Liberty, fraternity, equality, all of those things, noble principles, noble words, but it ultimately descends into the very authoritarianism that they call us bootlickers for, when in fact the authority that we represent was the very thing that we instituted with our own voice and our own vote. They've got a lot more in common with this group of people, a lot more in common with this group of people. We shall turn the youth against the 4 olds. And we're seeing that new little red guard emerge at student protests all over the country. And eventually it winds up with this. Does this look like democracy to you? Is this what you think of when you think of democracy? No, they've got a very different idea. You see, Adams, from his very defense of those British soldiers, when they were still calling this famous founder a bootlicker for defending authority, facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. I should finish the story in all fairness. Almost every single one of those British soldiers were acquitted on all charges, inflaming the passions of the mob, indicating further to those that would push that narrative that John Adams was in fact a bootlicker. But that stable authority was still preferable to the rule of the mob. That stable authority was still preferable to their idea of democracy. And I'll leave you with one more from Adams, because they like to talk a lot about original intent, particularly where the Second Amendment is concerned, without looking at the original letters of correspondence between the founders. Arms in the hands of individual citizens may be used at individual discretion for the defense of the country, the overthrow of tyranny, or in private self-defense. We are at a historical juncture where we're going to see plenty of all of the above. And all three of those being represented are going to think themselves in line with the founders and in line with the moral high ground and their idea of democracy. But we've seen how it plays out when the meat hits the grill. We've seen how it plays out when the rubber meets the road. And I'll remind you that this law and order that we're supposedly bootlickers for was the very thing that we voted into existence. Bootlickers, it's my boot. If there's any outside bootlicking involved for me, I can promise you there's going to be a dominatrix involved and not a bureaucrat. But in the meantime, the boot they accuse me of licking is my own. And I got to tell you, brothers and sisters, at this age, I'm just not that damn flexible. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else is on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, just a few days from getting back to work, certainly not employers. That one was for the sake of you docs, happy Antifa maggots out there. Good luck. You've tried before and you failed. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind, and they are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw and force feed you fistful after fistful of truth cock until either your eyes split and rupture or until they open and you see the light. And either way, mission accomplished. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. How you been? Appreciate you sticking around through a long-winded opener. We got some good stuff to get into, man. We're going to be straightening up and getting a lot more into those specific definitions. But right now, where's the fire, people? Everybody in for the drum roll. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we come reeling and rocking damn near every single Sunday with very few notable exceptions to the strains of Red Desert gut stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. I got to tell you, this week I'm kind of feeling it. How about we jump in and let's get into that roll call. Looks like you guys have a lively discussion going on in my absence, and that's exactly what I love to see. Brother Clem taking the gold. God bless you, brother. Went out to Austin Sistema and did a morning Tai Chi class for Valentine's Day. It was a great thing, man. The great thing. And, of course, the lovely Miss Charlie. Technically, she cheated to get the silver because she was right in the other room. So, I don't know. I'll let you guys sort that out. The original sinner sister herself, the OG, the divine Miss Emmy. Good to have you on board, sweetheart. David getting here early. And, of course, where would we be without Roman? Good to see you. That means Carrie's got to be hiding around here somewhere. So we're going to find her here in a second as we scroll through and see which ones of the usual suspects are already on board. Brother Ryan. Yeah, I like that. The little discussion about all that. What'd I tell you about using that damn pig Latin in my absence? Boy, this is America. Oh, man, I love it, man. Always a lively conversation going on in the background. Preacher George on board. Glad you made it, brother. Always good to see you here, man, and I always love your input on social media, brother. Those posts that you make. I want to chat more with you on that container building construction, but that's a conversation for another day. Just want you to know I am paying attention, brother, and I always appreciate your input. Deacon Mark on board, no doubt sitting on the back porch with his lovely wife, Ida, enjoying some adult beverages and some smokable consumables. God bless you, brother. Glad you made it out. There's Miss Carrie. I knew she was going to be hiding around here somewhere. See if I missed anybody. Iron Pig Armament. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to see you, Brother Turtle. Guys, don't forget, we're giving them a shout out now too, man. They're doing some magnificent things on the AR platform and all manner of other stuff. You want to check out Brother Turtle over at Iron Pig Armament, man. He's doing some great stuff. Send him your money. Don't even ask. Just give a general list of preferences and a big pot of money, and he will get you set up, man. I promise. Brother Vargas making it out early, man. I had a feeling you were going to be here. We got some good stuff going on today, man. Lots of good stuff to jump into the meetup. Because sometimes, man, it just gets overwhelming. This whole bootlicker. We're going to get into what it really means to be a bootlicker. And I've belabored this before, but it's been about 5 years. Back when it was still the COVID cast in the early days, what it really meant to be a bootlicker. When the Fentanyl Floyd riots were going on. Guys, we got plenty of time. We're going to cover it all. Another brother of the hook and a brother in arms and a brother in Christ, Brother Jude Howe. Glad you made it out, man. Here you get some time on that lattice boom, brother. Color me jealous. Color me jealous. I'm going to be back to work this week, starting on Wednesday. Just found that out on Friday, so we're scrambling, getting the U-Haul together, but it's good, man. It's good. I'm looking forward to getting back to work. You better believe that. Treasure Monk, Brother Jeff Truitt, all the way back from the grade school days. Mountain View Elementary, Blackburn Middle School, and of course, Fred T. Ford High School, home of the Tigers. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've still got my jersey, and they're still upset about it. Somewhere there is a visitor jersey missing with the number 52 on it. I'm thinking about showing up to the 35-year reunion wearing that jersey just to see if anybody remembers. I'm thinking probably not. Red Tex on board again. Glad you made it out, man. Send me a message one of these days, brother. Send me a message. Just a personal message. Let me know what's going on. Speaking of Fred T. Ford High School, another guy from all the way back in the high school days, Brother Wayne Sharp. I hadn't seen your brother Larry in a minute, man. I saw one post on Facebook. I miss him, brother. I miss him. It was always good chopping it up with Brother Larry, and it's always good to see you, Brother Wayne. And I'm just going to give you permission right here in front of God and everybody right now. Wayne, anytime you feel like posting up on that Reverend Bart's America fan page, you go ahead and take it upon yourself to do it, brother, because you are laying down some iron, man. Laying down some iron. I certainly appreciate it. What is that? You got your jersey too? I can't even get it on now. We had to push the pads back. I know, right? It's something. I'm finally getting back into clothes I hadn't been able to wear for years, man. That T-Sep and the peptide's been doing the work. I'm down like 50 pounds. But, yeah, man, it's maybe I'll fit into mine now. With or without pads, probably. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's all about how that weight distributes as we get older, man. Anyway, coming to the end of the bumper music, man. I want to thank Red Desert again. And guys, send them your money, man. Take care of the people that take care of the program. Red Desert has been cool enough to let me use this track as bumper music ever since we got started on this thing. And let me remind you guys, coming up in like March or April, we're looking at 6 years of doing this thing. And they have been letting me use this as bumper music. No royalties, no charges, no nothing. So, take care of the people that take care of the program, man, definitely. And they've been really cool. And so download some of their music, pay for it, Napster generation, download some of their music, buy some of their merch, and take care of the people that I'm about to give a shout out to right now. I'm going to get their sponsor shout outs out of the way real quick. First and foremost, Brother Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends. We go all the way back to 1988. He is at opiumtales.com. He's also at Opium Tales on Substack. He's got books available on Amazon. Opium Tales is all about beautiful women, tastefully done, beautiful naked women, and testosterone-driven commentary. Creativity, beautiful naked women, and testosterone-driven commentary on Planet Bart. That is a trifecta. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Talking about Roman, his lovely wife Carrie, Roxy, Allie, bevy of beautiful models over there, and he's done a lot of great work. You can find his books on Amazon under Roman Riva. He from Dork to Pimp Daddy is now out of circulation. Maybe he could put one together for you on custom if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave that up to him. But he's got short fiction available over on Amazon under Roman Riva, and he's got Roman Freely, which is a collection of his watercolor work. Another sponsor shout out for my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Period. End of statement. Sit down, Sparky. Shut up. You're wrong. The Viking Longship smoker trailers out sealing the asphalt seas. They're doing catering gigs. Brother, if you've been there, you know. If you know, you know. Dusty's pitmaster over there still. Brother Casey has moved on to bigger and better things. He has passed the bar and is a practicing attorney in the Spokane area. I've got him on retainer, so should you. And he's also an author. And you can find him on Amazon. Laytop Press out of Spokane, Washington. Find him on Amazon. Freaks of a Feather. It is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. No more lead than that. That should be all that's needed. Anybody over here in the comments can tell you it is well worth the read. The man's incredibly gifted. And I'm going to give a shout out too, since Brother Turtle is here. I'm going to give a shout out to Iron Pig Armament. You want to go out and check out all the stuff that he's doing over there. I put hands to some of his handiwork at the range down at Fort Honey Badger, and man, pig in a blanket. And I'm just going to leave it there. Amazing work this guy is doing with those platforms, and he's going to get you hooked up and squared away. So take care of the people, because we're building community here. Take care of the people that take care of each other, that take care of the program, and all of these great things that these people are doing, man. We want to lift each other up. We want to build that community. If you are in the faith, it is especially important. And even if you're not, we are talking about a community of like minds and kindred spirits who understand good and understand what evil is and aren't afraid to call it out for what it is and to address it and to deal with it. And it is a magnificent thing to have this many people together to do those things in the spirit of bonding and building that community. So God bless every one of y'all for being here. We're going to jump in real quick, and we're going to knock out the scripture part of it. It's going to be in two pieces today. One, I just want to drop a little bit of wisdom from the book of Proverbs. And as I do this, I'm going to adjust the climate control while I'll leave you with this. I'll let you guys just read that right here. Proverbs, actually, I have these completely out of order. So let me sort that and get that right first and foremost. Proverbs 14:15. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. Give me 2 seconds here, fellas. I'll be right back. Let me adjust this. Bang, bang. And that's definitely something that I should have dealt with earlier, but did not. So we're going to get that in the pipeline. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. Getting back to what we were talking about with historical context and things like that, it is very easy for the simple man to believe these things when it's thrown out in simplistic terms. But the prudent man looketh well to his going. That means do the homework, put in the mileage, know what the hell you're talking about. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. That very maggot militia that we were just talking about, they're raging and they're confident in their rage, and they know less than nothing. They are elevating people to presidential possibilities that are essentially dimwit talking point bartenders, right? Talking points with feet, and they are confident in their ignorance. And it is not only a damnable thing, but it's a frightening thing. And the third verse, he that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly. If you would have looked up that for a reference not so very long ago, you would have found my picture next to it. Rage can be a powerful motivator. It can also be a very, very dangerous thing to deal with, because when you are constantly rooted in that wrath and that anger, you're tempted to go off half triggered, and you always do. It always will find a way to bite you in the ass. And that's when you act without thinking. And when you act without thinking, well, the outcome is going to be exactly what it deserves to be. So a little bit from Proverbs, but this is the important bit that I wanted to get into from 1 Thessalonians. And I got to tell you guys, I'm not just picking this stuff at random. You see right here within arm's reach, I've got my King James, which, of course, I refer to as the AK-47 of Bibles. Because, look, man, we don't, Catholics have their own, and we could get into Council of Nicaea, what was left in, what was left out. I have a copy of the Apocrypha. I have, thanks to Deacon Mark, he gifted me with an Orthodox study Bible, so I have that as well. But King James is the go-to. It's my, like I said, the AK-47 of Bibles. But stay in it, guys, because, I mean, you look at this. It's dog-eared, it's highlighted, and it rolls with me everywhere. You got to put in, if you're serious, you want to put in at least one chapter a night. Stay rooted in the word, because if you're rooted in the word, they can't lead you astray, right? They are of their father, the devil, and their father's work they will do. They will trip you up with scriptures that you don't understand. They will trip you up with the big three that they're always fond of throwing in your face. They'll hit you with, turn the other cheek, judge not lest you be judged, all this other stuff. If you're not rooted in it, it's real easy to get tripped up. And nothing does more damage to the kingdom than a guy that's got that talking point, throws it in your face, and you've got no retort. Then you look like an idiot. Then you make this guy, and that's the only verse and passage that he knows that was given to him by some godless leftist, right? It's all that he's got, but he still comes off as smarter than you because he's got his case prepared and he's ready to plead it. And where are you? So people, if you're walking in the faith, you owe it to yourself, and you damn sure owe it to the kingdom to stay rooted in the word and know from whence you speak. Anyway, getting back to it, 1 Thessalonians. And again, I've got it out of order. Here we go. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. What are we talking about here? You know what we're talking about here? What are we talking about here? Somebody, man, comment over here. Engage me in conversation, right? The herd that we're speaking with regard to, for when they shall say peace and safety, right? Peace and safety is another one of those things they like to throw around like democracy, right? They'll take it out of context. They'll say that we are trying to get back rooted in peace and safety and love. That's another one they love to throw out. Love and tolerance. And we're just, let's all cuddle up. Group hug here, people. They don't mean it. And when you get rooted in that we are safe now, right? That we are at peace now. That's when the disaster drops in your lap and you're not ready. But we who are rooted in the word, we've read the book, guys. We've read the book. Number one, we know how it ends, which is some good news. But we also know that there's going to have to be some dark travels between here and there. We are not in darkness that day should overtake you as a thief. That's right, man. We're not. We're not going to get caught unawares. And as you've heard me speak of at length before on the sermon, we are better equipped to deal with this stuff because everything that is going on now, all of that which was done in the darkness is being brought to the light now, only makes sense through a scriptural lens. Everybody else is trying to put it through their political lens, and that's not without merit, Well, our side, blah, 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 we don't have, well, you thought so-and-so would, and he only did, We're talking about, of course, the guy that didn't kill himself, right? All the things that are coming to light. You want to process this through a political lens. It's not going to work out for you, Sparky. It's not. Because the fact of the matter is evil transcends party lines. Now, yeah, you could argue about whether it's a greater or lesser degree or more people on this and more people on that. We're not here to talk about that. We're talking about evil. We're talking about evil that extends to the roots, the corrupt roots of every facet of the modern world, eroding from within that which God has set into motion here in this world. So back to that second verse from Thessalonians, but ye brethren are not in darkness that day should overtake you as a thief. Guys, how many people here who are walking in the faith, and some of you, not going to call out any names, Ryan, were not shocked at all by this when all these things came out, right? Why? Because you were aware, you were grounded in the truth. For some of us, it was in scripture. For some of us, it was in history. For some of us, it was in both. But we understood this wasn't a shock. A lot of us have been on this tip for a long, long time, trying to shake other people out of their stupor, their collective stupor, to bring them to the light, and they wouldn't hear it. And now it's all been laid out. And it gets even better, guys. I'm going to drop this on you if you haven't seen it yet. More and less redacted versions are being hijacked and released almost on the daily now, right? So anybody who thought they could hide, the gig is up, brother. Everything done in the darkness will be brought to the light. And if that is going to upset some people who are supporters of the Mango Menace, then so be it. Because I've been unequivocal, and I remain unequivocal. Anyone victimizing kids, anyone Victimizing kids. For you in the back, let me just say it one more time, louder. For anyone victimizing kids. Those of us who are rooted in this can go to that particular passage where it talks about millstones. I don't care that you're a Republican. I don't care if you're Donald Trump himself. If you're trafficking kids, if you're victimizing kids, if you're diddling kids, if you're raping kids, if you are facilitating kids being raped, you got to go. Due process, of course, but you got to go. Okay? Okay. Anyway, getting away from where I wanted to go with that lesson. Where I wanted to go with that lesson is to remind you guys that it's not a surprise, man. None of the things that are going on are going to come as a surprise to the people that have that knowledge, and particularly the people who are rooted in the faith. It's not going to come as a surprise. I'm not talking about the milquetoast Martys. I'm not talking about the halfway Christians. I'm not talking about those guys. They're going to be shocked. But the people who are seriously rooted in the Word, not only is it not going to come as a shock, but it's going to be the only lens through which any of this makes sense. So think about that, guys. Again, that was Proverbs chapter 14, verses 15, 16, 17, and 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 3 and 4. And one more time, just to commit it to memory, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief. Part of that, to step outside the scriptural realm for a minute, part of that is with the prepper community, right? They're looking at things through a political lens. They're looking at things through a geopolitical lens, and a lens of preparedness for some vague, unseen disaster to come. But it's still maybe a different ballpark, but it's the same sport, man. They're not going to get caught unawares. It's not something that is going to be a shock to them. They're going to process it. They're going to let it roll over them, and they're going to continue on, right? Better to be ahead of the curve than walk around blithely like the grazers who don't know one way or the other, but even worse, the people who are hurting those grazers, because they know the iniquity that they profess. They know the iniquity that they're rooting on and that they're rooting for. They know the iniquity with which they are trying to erode that essence of civilization that they hate so much. And they are steeped in lies and deception. So don't lie and don't be deceived. Don't be that guy. How about that? Does that work out for you? Let's go ahead, guys, and get into the bullet points. Founders, bootlickers, and the rule of the mob. So you guys were tracking through the opener, right? How many of you guys, for the sake of, and listen, guys, there is such a thing as being a bootlicker, right? For the guys that are the Trump cultists, for lack of a better word, whole lot of bootlicking going on there. Whole lot. People who are still defending folks like Pam Bondi after that clown show the other day, right? I have never seen a more feckless, clueless, spineless, useless creature than that clown show that took place the other day. And you guys know, I watch C-SPAN the way a lot of folks watch ESPN. That is my pro sports. That is my jam. Some people would venture to say that that is sinful, that I am spending too much time paying attention to the goings on in the physical world and not laying up treasures in the world to come. You could make a case for that. That's a conversation that I'm willing to have. But in the meantime, it's just an acknowledgement. This is something that I stay on top of. There are those people who are straight up bootlickers. There are those people that when and if Darth Cheeto starts crossing serious constitutional lines, they will continue on. And I will submit to you that I haven't exactly been on the ups with regard to distancing myself from that mentality. Let me clear it up for you. I have expressed unequivocally and unapologetically, and I stand by this, that excess with regard to saving the West, with regard to saving America, with regard to saving Christendom, trumps, pardon the pun, constitutional principles, any sort of political principle. I am not prepared to go to my grave with the only comfort in my heart being, well, at least I stuck to my principles. I could have prevented these children from being hurt. I could have prevented these little girls in the UK from being groomed and gang raped by denizens of a godless culture incompatible with the West. I could have prevented that. But I wanted to stick to my principles. I hope that is of comfort to you. I hope that is of comfort to you when you meet your maker. A fellow by the name of Tim Pool, you guys might be familiar with him. I follow his podcast from time to time. He brought up a good point. You remember some months back when we were talking about Afghanistan and Bachabazi, right? Stop me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Feel free to jump in and correct me. But the servicemen that were UCMJ'd for interfering, that were court-martialed for interfering with this culturally accepted practice in Afghanistan where little boys work as de facto sex slaves to the older men in the tribe. Something that is unacceptable. You know, at Nuremberg, we were just following orders, didn't get anybody off the hook, did it? I mean, nobody who hung there was anyone but people who didn't have anything to offer to the aerospace or medical industries here in America, but that's a paperclips project for another time. I say that to say this. If you saw that going on and you allowed it to continue, and the only thing that kept you in line was the fact that if you didn't, you were going to have to answer to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, cool. That'll work for your commanding officer. But for those of us that answer to a higher authority, what are you going to say to God? Now, that's an extreme example. But when you look at the maggot mob, when you look at the maggot militia, the Antifa crowd, the hard leftists, the avowed communists, the degenerates, and you look at the things that the harms that they've already been able to inflict on the West, the harms that they have already been able to inflict on children, because we stuck to our principles. Our principles said that we had to welcome people in. Our principles said that we had to let them practice their religion freely. Hashtag finish the sentence, Sparky. Your principles said that you had to let them in. No, finish the sentence. In spite of the fact that you knew their cultures were incompatible, in spite of the fact that you knew that many of these tribes that you were welcoming in from these godless places and these godless cultures were steeped in public stoning of women, that some of these tribes, as part of their cultural practice, take little girls, and guys, brace yourself for the ugly language and the graphics here, but take their little girls, cut out their clits with a sharp rock, and stitch them shut to preserve their virtue. And we had to welcome them in because it's our principle. Get bent. We had to let them worship and practice their religion. Finish the sentence, Sparky. We had to let them set up mosques where their imams were telling them that the very civilization that was gracious enough in our Christian principles, in our Western principles, in our democratic principles to host you, you were calling for the destruction of. Way to stick to your principles, Sparky. If your principle leads to your erosion and your destruction, of what good was the principle? The question we need to be asking ourselves, and most of them don't have the stones. Facts are facts. You guys remember a movie called No Country for Old Men? Remember Anton Chigurh? Right before he's about to kill Carson Wells. If the rule that you followed has led you to this, of what good was the rule? That part. That's where we are in the West today. What is I would like to believe that somewhere out there there's a screeching leftist whose sleep paralysis demon is Bart yelling, way to stick to your principles, Sparky. Ask and ye shall receive, Brother Vargas. Ask and ye shall receive. If I could have that be my fate, if for whatever reason I had not made it back to the faith, and my fate for eternity was to be a sleep paralysis demon screaming in the face of leftists, I could think of much more ignominious ends. Appreciate the humor, and I appreciate you bringing me back to ground level, because I was getting a little heated. But back to bootlicking. We're being called bootlickers. The same people who make fun of us, the same people who, getting back to some of this stuff from the openers, let me pull up some of these assets here. And by the way, StreamYard, guys, if you're thinking about doing a live stream, I use StreamYard, and I use the most basic stuff. Obviously, I use the most basic stuff that I can get by with. Nothing fancy, right? Just me, like it's always been. Remember, when this thing started out, it was me and a phone. That's it. So I try to keep it like that. These same people, you remember the No Kings crowd, right? That list that I posted in the opener, and I'm going to try to work my way back to it if I can find it. There it is. All of these things. You remember where they were. Put your mask on, locked down. You don't take the vaccine, I'm going to fire you. You can't go outside. We don't accept your medical exemption. We're shutting your business down. You can't go to church. Your family members will die alone. How many of you over here in the comments had a family member die alone? David, for sure, because there were limited to how many people that could be in there with Professor Hal. Hotlines so you could stitch on your neighbor. Mandates galore. You're responsible for my health. Social distance 6 feet apart. But no family gatherings over 10. You guys remember all that? These are the same people calling us bootlickers now. And when they are violating laws that we all voted on, by the way, we voted, did we not? What did the Mango Menace run on? First and foremost, shutting down and securing the border and deporting the illegals. You want to disagree on degrees? We can have that discussion. Worst of the worst first. But if you're looking at the legit numbers, that is the direction. Much as you would like to believe that's not true, much as I've seen the facts and figures, alleged facts and figures that the left likes to throw out to paint a different narrative, when you dig into the numbers, that remains the focus. In any case, we're bootlickers for not standing up for you, particularly the ones that are coming after us on Second Amendment grounds. That the Second Amendment exists to protect us from tyranny, and they want us to protect them from their version of tyranny. Something that we voted for. I submit to you, they do not have a problem with the whole prospect of being a bootlicker. They just want you to be licking the boot of the mob and not the boot that you voted to implement. There is not a damn thing tyrannical about what is going on here. If you know the real numbers, if you have legit sources, you know this. Every tug at the heartstrings emotional story that they throw out, you dig deeper and it falls apart. An American soldier that served in the military and he's getting deported because, and then you dig and he's a multiple convicted felon. A Baltimore father, or Maryland, a Maryland dad, human trafficker, domestic violence. I haven't seen one story yet that holds up to even the slightest bit of scrutiny. They love to tug at the heartstrings. Why? Because people are ruled by emotions. They have no discernment. But because we don't come with our AK-47s, the same ones they wanted us locked up for having, the same ones that they mocked us for having small PPs, for wanting to keep around the house, the same ones they told us we didn't need because the police were going to save us, they want us to come running to their rescue now. And because we don't, we are bootlickers. There's no logic to this thought process. And even if there were, don't have any illusion about where this is headed. This is ruled by the mob. Getting back to John Adams, do you think the mob wanted to go through a legal process with these people that had just killed colonists? No, they wanted their version of justice and they wanted it now. Same as the mob that's in the street in Minneapolis and in Seattle and in Portland. They want their justice and they want it their way and they want it right now. And if you don't assist to that end, you are a bootlicker. It's not the bootlicking they have a problem with. It's the fact that the boot is not on their foot. You have to understand the mentality of these people, and they're already not only telling us, but showing us what they fully intend to implement if, God forbid, they get their hands back on power. You have legit state representatives, I want to say Georgia, fact check me on that said that there should be a 5-year ban from all social media for any MAGA if they get back in power to punish us for what we have done to their democracy. In fact, next week, if somebody reminds me, I can do a whole list of we're going to get you back from these people. They've already told you who they are. They showed us that during COVID. They wanted us locked up. They wanted us forced into vaccinations. They wanted our children taken away. And they're going to talk to us about being bootlickers now because the authority that we voted into power is doing what we voted for them to do. The problem is not with being a bootlicker. The problem is that you're not licking their boot. Democracy, mob rule. The rule of the mob. You guys remember the fentanyl Floyd riots? You guys remember? Was it that long ago? These cities were on fire, and people, whether or not they believed in the Black Lives Matter movement, were boarding up their windows and spray painting BLM, Black Lives Matter, putting signs up all over the place. And I wish I had that graphic to pull up. In fact, I may have it. I'll look for it right now. We'll see, but I'll describe it to you. Many of these businesses were burned to the ground anyway. But what is that if not bootlicking? Are you not licking the boot of the mob? Now, someone brought up a good counter argument to that, a valid counter argument to that. Well, what if they agree with what they're doing and they're trying to show their support for the cause? And maybe they do agree. It is entirely possible that in these blue cities, these blue city business owners do agree with the Black Lives Matter mentality. But that is not why. Because before the riot started, they may have had a flyer or two in the window. Now their windows are covered and it's in big block letters in black spray paint. Why? Because they're that much more enthusiastic? No, because they're afraid of the mob. And if you kowtow to that, how is that not being a bootlicker? Worth pondering, methinks, especially when, because I did find it, especially when it turned out like this. Churches and businesses. They put it all up there. We support the current thing. And they were looted and burned. Any rule based on governance. Now, you could make a case for John Adams with the British because the colonists were not represented. The colonists, taxation without representation. You understand. Or on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, you should understand. Many don't. But he provided representation to those men. Why? Because even being perceived as a bootlicker to the crown, when nothing could be further from the truth, he believed in due process of law over the rule of the mob. You may call it tyranny. You may, in your misinformed worldview, believe that we are living under a tyrannical regime right now. But the fact of the matter is, if you legitimately believe in this democracy that you trumpet so much, this regime was voted into power. Yeah, well, so was Hitler. Yeah, I know. I know. That's the perils of living in a representative government. But the fact of the matter is, he was voted in by the people. And you can vote him right out again. Here's a little tip for you, Sparky. Come in real close, open up your history books and your head just a little. Ready? Big revelation here. If you can vote your way out of it, it's not tyranny. I'll give you a minute. You want to write that down, because right by my Bible, I like to keep a notebook around, just scribble these things down. It's an important thing, and I know that's lost on a lot of folks, but it's a fact. If you can vote your way into or out of it, it's not tyranny. Yeah, but then one group gets power and they make it to where they don't have to vote anymore. Right. What has Trump done to do that? I'll wait. All the things that you said he was going to do, so far he's done none of the above. But in Virginia, we've gotten to see what the left do. They ran that woman as a moderate. She got in and gave him a wish list of things. Redistricted everything. The Republicans will never win another gubernatorial election in Virginia. They'll be lucky if they win a single Senate seat because of how they've redistricted everything and how they've changed the voting rules. And blue states everywhere, including my own home state of Washington, have said they fully intend to do the same thing. Getting back to that principled argument, I'm not ready to rest on my principles. I want these people crushed. I'm admitting it. Point blank, up front, I'm letting you know. I want these people crushed. Absolutely and without equivocation. Because that is exactly what they have shown the intent to do to us. And if we fail to seize this moment, there will not be another. You may find that hyperbolic, but I'm letting you know where I stand. So at the very least, we can agree to disagree. We can have the discussion. What do we got? Luther Vandross. Okay. All right. Apparently, I missed the side conversation. That's fine. Vargas. Anytime somebody calls me a bootlicker, all I can think about is just how many damn laws I've broken in my life just to have some purple-haired jizz mopper tell me indelicate but fair. Yeah, without a doubt. I have scars that were put there by police officers that are older than some of these people who are calling me bootlicker. Joey, I'm glad you made it out, and you're right. Tyrants rarely allow protests. It's another thing. Don't start seeing arrests from the Epstein files. He will lose support. I completely agree, George. Completely agree. And he should. Getting back to that Bondi clown show. These people are throwing it out that we are bootlickers because we are supporting authority that we voted into power. When, and eventually it is a win, they get their hands back on the switch, we won't have to worry about licking their boots. They're going to be forcibly put into our faces. They will exact a vengeance for us having the temerity to step away from their leftist orthodoxy. You have liberals that genuinely want to make the world a better place. They are, however, being orchestrated by people who want nothing of the sort. They want power. They want their agenda. They want it enforced. And they're very, very twisted individuals. They would like to align themselves more, as I've said before, with the American Revolution, when in fact they are more ideologically aligned with this group of people, and this is the intent that they have for them. I brought up the thing about the Red Guard and the struggle sessions, which is my next bullet point, and this segues very, very nicely. Couple of things, actually. But before they get to these guys, one place that they differ from the American founders is the difference between the American Revolution and the French Revolution. I'm going to recommend for you right now, if you haven't heard it already, you need to go listen to Glenn Beck. Say what you want about Glenn. Don't care. The Glenn Beck podcast, episode 277, is leftist rage about to turn as bloody as the French Revolution? Okay? You guys need to hear this interview. You guys need that historical perspective. Because these leftists are lying to you. Point blank. Doing everything they can to insulate you from the historical perspective that you need to have. Getting back to the Red Guard. What do you know about the Red Guard, people? Anybody want to give me a cultural breakdown of Mao's Great Leap Forward? Anyone? Take your time. Anyone? What do you know about the Great Leap Forward? In fact, somebody go ahead and list the approximate body count of the Great Leap Forward, if you would be so kind. People like to say that the left are the real fascists. They're not. They don't have any. They're not ideologically aligned with fascism in any way, shape, or form. In fact, from a historical and political perspective, they are correct in their assessment that the far right has a lot more in common with fascism than they do. They are correct in that. Sorry, but if you know your history, they are correct in that. It could shift very, very quickly. But as was the case in Germany, since they're constantly wanting to draw the Hitler comparisons, there was a battle in the streets between left wing and right wing factions. The left wing factions wanted communism, the right wing factions wanted fascism. If we are, and I do not believe that we're there yet, but if we are at a point where we are forced to choose our authoritarianism, I would far rather be in line with the far right than the far left. Because if nothing else, the far right actually acts in defense of Western civilization. You can feel about that however you want, but it's a fact. The values that created the West are far more likely to be defended by the far right than the far left. Why? Because the far left is rooted in tearing down the old order. During Mao's Great Leap Forward, there were four olds: old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. Can you guys think of anything remotely resembling that today? Tearing down the four olds? Old ideas like free market capitalism, old culture, Christianity, Catholicism, the strength and sovereignty of the nuclear family, representative government, old customs, gender roles, both in the family and outside the family. And again, the structure of the nuclear family being one of those old customs and old habits. Struggle sessions. Guys, if you want to see where we are headed, you need to take a serious deep dive on Mao's Great Leap Forward. Because that is the modern left. Without exception, that is the modern left. Oh, so everybody who's liberal is a mountain? No, you didn't hear me say that. I'm saying that is the movement, that is the modern left. All of their high-ranking figures are avowed Marxist and communist. All of them. The few mainstream Democrats that remain, the old guard Democrats that remain, are being pushed out by these dildo-throwing lunatics that are taking over their party. Every mainstream, old school liberal, old school Democrat has jumped ship from what the Democrat Party has become, and as well they should. Here's an example. I'm going to throw this out. We didn't get to it. And I'm going to pull up the exact thing that happened. This was 3 days ago, Thurston County, Washington. Thurston County Sheriff's deputy was parked outside of an elementary school in Lacey, Washington. You guys may have seen this, and if you haven't, it's worth looking up the video. This is a deputy in question. I'm going to see if I can find his name real quick. Deputy Jacob Domino was sitting in his patrol vehicle, and he's in the school parking lot. He had just completed a collision report, and this little Stasi Karen on the right, who I'm not going to dignify her by naming her, you guys should look up this video. She walked up to him and dressed him down for being there. Talked about how his presence there in front of the school was scaring the students. He wasn't an ICE agent. He was a local sheriff's deputy. Part of their job is to protect school grounds. But it didn't stop the Stasi Karen from going up. You guys should watch the video. You really should. And when you do watch the video, watch it from a leftist source so you can distinguish for yourself the comments between their frame of reference and their mindset and thinking people. They are unhinged. I would that were not the case, but they are savagely unhinged. But all of the old orders, getting back to the four olds, the old ideas, the old culture, the old customs, where, I don't know, cops were there to enforce the law, where people that did bad things to the innocent got locked up and weren't let go without cash bail. to where people who were too mentally ill to function in civilized society were institutionalized. And again, guys, let's just take a look. Just take a look. The only thing she's missing is the nose ring. That's the only thing she's missing. Half of you could probably speak the words that she spoke to this officer without even having to go and actually look at the damn video. They are allowed to vote. And they do. Oh, God, they do. In abundance. And as a result, these cities, these states are all falling apart. We're getting to watch it play out in actual real time. I'm getting to see it so much in my home state of Washington that I never thought that I would say this, but I'm really on the verge. I fully intend to pay my house off this year. I will have it paid off, at which point I may sell and get the hell out of Washington. You guys who have known me for years, Roman in particular, who has known me in this circle longer than any of you except Jeff, knew that for decades I dreamed of getting to the Northwest. When I found that house, I said, this is the house that I'm going to grow old and die in. But because of lunatics like this woman on the right and the fact that they are allowed to vote and unfortunately breed without even a permit, I am watching that beloved state fall apart in real time. And it is happening in every blue state. There are no exceptions. Well, it's not good to make general. Shut up! There are no exceptions. I'm up to here with, well, we can't make blanket general statement. I'm up to here with that. Because, I'm just going to pull up the hashtag just because I can. Because the intellectual gymnastics that are required to support your specious nonsense case are more than I'm willing to bear right now. You can dig and decontextualize and fold facts and change narratives and do whatever the hell you feel is necessary to do. But what you were speaking is unmitigated bullshit, and you know it as well as I do. So stop. Blue cities, crime-ridden, cesspools, falling apart, drug-addled, filthy, overtaxed. Anyone that can get out does. Blue states, same way, overtaxed, filthy, degenerate, falling apart. And rather than take a minute to go, hey, maybe we could have been wrong, you double down. What was it Thatcher said about socialism? The problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of someone else's money. I want you all to try to imagine looking at Bob Ferguson's Washington or Gavin Newsom's California or Tina Kotek's Oregon, Pritzker's Illinois, Hochul's New York, with Mom Donnie running its biggest city. I want you guys to imagine, because we can watch the decay in real time. In spite of the propaganda ministry's best efforts to cover it up, we get to watch the decay in real time. I want you to imagine what would happen if those practices and those policies were nationalized. And for those of you milquetoast Martys and halfway Christians, you lukewarm Christians, you know what I'm talking about spiritually. You are neither hot nor cold, so spew you from my mouth. I want you to ponder what your fate is going to be, how long you're going to last when people like the woman on the right are running your show. Because the only difference between the woman on the right and these people are votes. The only difference between Mao's little red guard and these kids are women like her. This was in Round Rock, and this was in Kyle, right here in Texas. Student walkouts. It's another thing that the left were fond of during Mao's Great Leap Forward. The Little Red Guard. Take a look at these. These are teenage kids, Chinese teenage kids. The party would send them into villages to administer struggle sessions, to beat down old people, to burn down churches. To get rid of the four olds. It's our great leap forward. And it only costs, what, 100 million dead? Dennis, if you want to jump on that. Roman, if you want to fact check me, what, 100 million dead? Their great leap forward is coming. Now, thankfully, there are people that are holding the line. Thurston County Sheriff Derek Sanders, let me be finishing up on the article, publicly commended the deputy for his tact and his unwillingness to take the escalation bait. And guys, I encourage you, I want you to go and see the video if you haven't. She really pushes him, does everything shy of calling him a fascist, curses at him. And you could tell he was getting pretty heated, as well he should. But he maintained he was a consummate professional. She pulled the classic. It's one that I've done and got punched in the face for my trouble, telling a cop, "You work for me." Yeah, that worked out well for me. And I was a little punk. He held it together. She posted that video. She was so proud of herself. And the overwhelming majority of the comments were clowning her. Not only did the sheriff's department commend their deputy and promote him, but the public support was fast and furious. Because regular thinking people have had enough. Regular thinking people understand that it is women like this that support children like this and this to become this, leading to this. These student protests are not grassroots. It's not like these kids put this together on their own. It's not like these kids know enough about what's going on in the damn world right now to say we protest ICE and we are going to take it upon ourselves to walk out of this school. This is orchestrated by these school boards, these teachers' unions, and they're getting on the street, and when they're confronted with real people, they're committing acts of violence against these people. The one classic, and I wish I'd have pulled it up during show prep. This girl at one of these walkout protests starts swinging for the fences, assaulting everybody. The cops snatch her. Camera's right in her face, and she's screaming, "I want my mommy." And yeah, the base part of me is like, serves you right, you little punk. But then I got to think to myself that the parents have failed here. I got to think to myself that it's women like this that have failed here. Without even getting to Mao's Great Leap Forward, let's just take a look. Difference between the American Revolution and the French Revolution, just to highlight the difference between the right and the left. Goals and scope, and I'm just going to give you just a brief little fact sheet on the breakdown. But our revolution was relatively orderly, for one. We pulled it all together. We had our militia. We had our Continental Army. We were structured. We were organized. The founders were some of the most brilliant men that have ever walked the face of the earth. And the republic that they gave us was one of the most brilliant ever conceived in the history of representative government. Had we stuck to the bounds of the Constitution, none of these things would be happening. None. For all the people that want to tear this place down, what a horrible place we are, and yet the rest of the world wants to get here, and your whiny ass won't leave. Love it or leave it, I'm not down with that. Love it or change it, I can get down with that. We're way past that now. It's love it or burn it. This is Robespierre and the Jacobins. This is not the U.S. founders. And if you really push these people on the left, they'll admit as much. They'll admit that they're more inspired by the French Revolution than the American. They'll admit that they are inspired more by Chairman Mao and Karl Marx than by Thomas Paine. And getting back to the original qualm that I had, and yet sticking to our principles, we allow this to continue. Because they're free to speak, they're free to practice their religion, they're free to... They will extend no such courtesy to you. When their day comes, I hope it is of great comfort to you that you stuck to your principles. When they are gang raping your daughters and dragging your families into gulags, I hope that is of great comfort to you, that you stuck to your principles. Dude, it's being so hyperbolic. Am I? How many times have I gone over on this program? When people tell you who they are, believe them. They don't just tell us who they are. They laugh in our faces that we refuse to do anything about it. That is the left. That is the Muslims. Robespierre and the Jacobins gave us the reign of terror. Keep in mind, this is just a couple of years after the successful revolution in the United States gave us the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights was drafted in, 91? French Revolution kicked off in, 93? If my history's wrong, please, somebody speak up. I don't want to look like an idiot. We conducted our revolution through force of government. We conducted our revolution through political representation in the Continental Congress. We organized a military. We fought a tyrannical party from outside. At the time, the most powerful military machine on the face of the earth. Any measure, we had no chance. Oh, but here's another difference between us and the French. We were rooted in God. Oh, there you go with that Jesus thing again. Always got to bring the Bible up. Do the homework. I know all the excuses you're going to throw at me because I used to spew the same rhetoric myself, but I actually did some digging. I used to spew that same nonsense that, oh, they weren't really Christians. Most of them were deists, and they really didn't want. In fact, they were terrified of religion having any part to play in them. I used to spew that same nonsense myself because, like most leftists, I never looked past it. I trusted the people who were informing me, and I thought myself so much smarter than everybody else. But you go ahead, Sparky. You keep spewing it. You're an idiot. Realize that I lose respect for you every time your mouth opens. But cool, go ahead. What they are gunning for is more in line with the French Revolution and with China and with Chairman Mao in China, his great leap forward, than anything having to do. So when they are talking to us about being bootlickers, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. It is our mentality that gave us this constitutional system. It is theirs that wishes to tear it down and to institute something in its place that is going to be godless, misdirected, and more authoritarian than you can even imagine. And because these useful idiots on the ground, the ones that are waving dildos at protest as if that's not anything but a freaking campaign ad for Republicans, these petulant children, idiots to the last man, are what kind of idiots? Useful idiots. They'll be the first lined up against the wall. Once the revolution's accomplished, they'll be the first ones lined up against the wall. For those of us who have read history books and understand how this, if you ask them, walk up to them at one of these demonstrations, what do you think your life's going to be like after the revolution? They'll have some pie in the sky. I'll be able to write poetry, and I'll be able to teach classes about the importance of diversity and how Western civilization was tyrannical and misogynistic and the whole concept of no, you're going to be toiling in the fields never occurred to them. It never does. Here's a joke for you. Feel free to take this one home. What did communists use for light before electricity? Nah, I screwed that up. Let's try that again. What did communists use for light before candles? Electricity. Wow, dude, I was all pumped up to deliver that joke and totally screwed the pooch on the delivery. Yeah. Let's try it again. Here's a historical joke for you. What did communists use for light before candles? Electricity. Waka waka. I'm here all week. I wish they were as right as they are convicted. I wish the world really did run like some of these people thought that it did. But we have to understand, it is not these good-hearted people that are going to be carrying out the enforcement. It is going to be the good-hearted people who are going to be swung to be this model. It is going to be those good-hearted but misdirected kids who are going to become the Little Red Guard. It is going to be the good-hearted but misdirected Stasi Karens that are going to be on the front lines of this thing. And the enforcement will be carried out by the power of the state. Let me ask you something. Do you think that this group of kids, right, or for that matter, this group of kids, right, or this group of kids, do you think any of them would last, I don't know, more than 47 seconds in street scrap with grown-ass men like myself? Of course not. You really think they're going to pick that fight? Of course not. Do you really think that this, God bless her, that this disappointing woman really wants to step into the fray of a world without cops? Of course not. Do you think that she'd really step to that cop if it wasn't for the fact of knowing she is insulated by 100 cameras on that cop waiting for him to do something wrong? Guys, you got to break yourself out of the mindset. And most of you people who are watching here, you already know. But for those of you that don't, you need to come to the realization that there are good people who vote Democratic. but the Democrats are not good people. Let me say that again. There are good people who vote Democratic, but the Democrats are not good people. There are good people who, for whatever reason, believe communist ideologies, but communists are not good people. The historical examples are right there in front of you. For the people of this mentality as well as their political bent, we can look through history and we can see how this turns out. People who talk the talk about liberty, fraternity, equality, the French Revolution, leads to mass beheadings, leads to the reign of terror, all for the sake of these lofty ideas like brotherhood, all for the sake of these lofty ideas like equality. That's how you sell it. That's not how it ends up. The American Revolution was one of the very, very few in human history that emerged from its own ashes as something better than what it was when it began. We have carried this experiment, and in spite of the best efforts of the leftist elements within our system and foreign adversaries who would try to tear it down, we have made it work now for 250 years as of this July. Pretty impressive, considering the forces aligned against it. And again, I'm going to attribute that to God. When I say that the West is God's highest expression on this earth, I am not being hyperbolic, and I am not just spewing for the sake of elevating the kingdom. I believe that in my heart of hearts, that the civilization created by the West, the civilization created by white European blood, is God's highest expression on this earth. And that is His will and His hand that has saved us not only from outside adversaries, but even from ourselves and our own folly for having turned from Him. It is not the action of an individual. It is not the action of a nation or group of nations. It is the divine providence of God Himself, because the civilization that was created by the West is more in line with His teachings. This book right here, more in line with His teachings than any other religion. The same people that hate this civilization only exist because of this civilization. You understand that? Alphabet people, you listening? You're oppressed because you didn't get your wedding cake. Oh, wait, you got your wedding cake. You just didn't get your first choice of baker because the guy you wanted to bake the cake was a Christian, and this country didn't force him to make your cake for you because it was out of line with his religious beliefs. Oh, such terrible oppression. Were it not for this country that you now want to see burned, what do you think they do to you in Muslim cultures? Should probably take a look at that. I consider myself a bit of a wordsmith, so I know parts of speech, and here's one that gets overlooked: prepositions. Prepositions are important. Why? Because the choice of a preposition in a sentence to establish a relationship between two other words puts everything into a greater context. Here's the example: queers for Palestine. That choice of preposition is important. Queers for Palestine, because there aren't any queers in Palestine. Starting to register? Every one of you maggots that wants to see the unraveling of capitalism only exists in your comfy, cush, spoiled, pampered little life in mom's basement because of that capitalism. And where did that come from? It's an outgrowth of the West and Western civilization. We gave you that. You're welcome. You tear and rend and rip and shriek and protest at the foundations of the very thing that makes your soft ass unaccountable, spineless, unevolved life, morally baseless, empty life possible. I understand. The adversary is the father of lies. That's how he's able to trick you into hating this civilization and the book on whose principles it is based. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll find that there was a great wisdom in the West. Going all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, going all the way back to John Adams, going all the way back to Plato and Aristotle. Heroic men have heroic flaws. These were all great men, and they bequeathed to us a great civilization. Some of us understand and appreciate it. The rest of us want to burn it down. Rest assured that if the latter is allowed to exceed, the former won't be here to save your spineless asses from what follows. Good luck. But ultimately, it is all performative. And I'm going to bring this home. Everything that they tell you, everything that they present to you, every principle that they claim to hold, knowing that they do not, every principle that they seek to unravel, that is at the root of the West, that is at the root of this republic, that is at the root of Christendom. Rest assured, it is not because they really believe it. Not the street soldiers. They don't really believe it. Not in their heart of hearts. You will notice that when you look at these mugshots, these are all damage cases. All of them. You look at an Antifa arrest breakdown and all the mugshots, damage cases without exception. You look at these Stasi Karens getting in the face of these cops, telling them about how afraid they are. They're not really afraid. They're not scared. Not as scared as they would be in a world without cops. I'll give you a little breakdown, Karen. In a world without these cops that you claim to hate, you are gang raped and murdered in 3 days or less by the very people that you are putting your ass on the line to defend. This is not a belief that you hold. It is performative. It is performative for the sake of those that surround you because you are so empty yourself. You were so bereft of a sense of identity yourself that the only thing that gives your life any meaning is other people's validation and approval. You will get that from the propaganda ministry when they tell you that we are all bootlickers for fascists and that you, Karen, have the moral high ground, that you are on the right side of history, not like those fascists and bootlickers. You get that validation. The Antifa maggot firebombing a courthouse. He's bashing the fash, bro. He's storming the beaches at Normandy. And all of his friends will tell him that, and the media will reinforce that. And the Marxist political journals, oh, wait, I already said the legacy media, will reinforce that. But they don't believe it. They need this validation because if you look into that spot inside them where should exist a soul, you'll find nothing but emptiness. Why? Because the father of lies told them that this was the enemy. So they haven't got anything to fill their hearts and souls in the sense of truth or redemption. The father of lies has told them that this very society that they live in hates them and oppresses them and holds them down from being who they really could be if they could just give in to all the degeneracy that's handed out to them wholesale. Have some porn, have some depravity, here's some dope, and no accountability because accountability is oppressive. That void in their soul is what they need to fill, and that is why they are so easily led. So I'm going to take a little bit of accountability here on our behalf. We are admonished to pray for these people. Some of you are chuckling right now, but I'm being quite serious. We are admonished to pray for these people, and I do. Charlie will attest to that. I pray legitimately that these people find their way to the light of truth. But there is no sin in defending the weaker elements from the malicious elements. There is no sin in acknowledging evil for what it is, whether it is the perpetrator and deliverer and enabler that gives it to these people to fill that empty place in their soul, or the minions themselves that have filled that hole with that evil and are out carrying that misery to other people. There is no sin in opposing that. In fact, the sin is in refusing to acknowledge it for what it is and to let some non-believer convince you that turning the other cheek is the way to handle it. And don't judge, but if you really have your sidearm, you really have your sword, those people aren't going to be able to dissuade you because you know that turning the other cheek does not mean looking away from that confrontation, but and you will address me as an equal. You know that judge not is out of context. You know that he says judge with a righteous judgment and don't be a hypocrite. The sin is not in the judgment. The sin is in the hypocrisy. The sin is not in the confrontation. The sin is in refusing to confront what you know must be confronted. The sin is in the cowardice. And the greatest sin of all of these is cowardice masquerading as tolerance. And I'll go you one better. Tolerance is not a Christian virtue. When he spared the woman's life, when he said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," They all dropped their rocks and they left. Did he then walk over to the woman and say, "You go, girl. You're so empowered. You do you, baby girl. Live your truth." He walked to her and said, "Now go and sin no more." In one gospel and one only, it is said that he said to her, "Neither do I judge thee." Another cop out from unbelievers to try to steer you. That's only mentioned in one gospel. Maybe it did happen, but it does not change the context, because the final words spoken were, "Go and sin no more." Do you think Yeshua, if she'd have walked around the corner and been turning another trick before she even made the block, do you think he would have celebrated that? Are you that twisted? We are admonished to pray for these men, and so I do. We are admonished to reach these men to the extent that we are able to reach them, and so we strive to do that. But if you fail to confront evil when you know it to be evil, on the basis of some half-hearted attempt at refusing to judge, your cowardice will be judged. And worse, if you are afraid to speak truth in the name of the kingdom to these people, if you want to approach them, but you don't want to speak the word to them because you're afraid Jesus might turn them off, remember that final admonition. He that denies me before the world, he I will deny before my Father in heaven. We say that again. You deny me before the world, I will deny you before my Father in heaven. You want to be accountable for that? But he left us with this: being reviled for who you are. And this is only for you guys that are in the faith. Being reviled for who we are. For those of you that aren't, it's okay. Because even if you don't recognize Christ, he recognizes you. You are hated by the world for standing up for good. That good is rooted in Christ. You may not believe that, but he believes in you. So just appreciate the pat on the shoulder. If the world hated you, it is because it hated me first. That is what he said to them. You are going to be hated for standing for these principles that were bequeathed to us from our forefathers, that had it bequeathed to them from godly men before them, that had it bequeathed to them from God, from the boss man, from the carpenter, from the Spirit. If you aren't being reviled by the world right now, I submit to you, sir or madam, that you aren't doing enough. But remember that when you set out for this, it is not to aggrandize yourself. It is for the glory of the kingdom. Know your history. Because the more you know of your own history, the harder you will be to mislead. The more that you have an appreciation for the truth of your history, for the truth of the Gospels, the more you'll be willing to defend it. It is my sincere hope that the truth comes to these people sooner than later. Whole lot is coming to the light right now. Things that were done in the darkness are being brought to the light. We can rejoice in that. What we can't do is rest on it. Pray for your enemies. Pray for their souls. Pray for their salvation. But understand that that is in no way an admonition for you to shirk what must be done to their flesh. When they come to bring down the kingdom, be ready to show them why the kingdom has stood so strong for so long, and give them just a little taste of what it'll look like when his kingdom comes again. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. Thank y'all for being here. Close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, I give you thanks. I give you thanks for the strength of my brothers and my sisters. I give you thanks for all the hate and derision that comes my way. All these slings and arrows, I give you thanks for every one of them. Every adversity, every stumbling block, every obstacle. Because the hate that is directed at me from the world lets me know that I'm on the right track. Every stumbling block and obstacle that I overcome by the strength of the kingdom and for the sake of the kingdom, because it will make me a better minister for the kingdom, and it will make me a better soldier for the kingdom. And we all stand before you as soldiers for the kingdom, Lord. Here in this tumult, here in this storm, where the adversary and his minions are having the time of their lives, partying it up, deceiving many, feeling good that they don't even have to put the mask on anymore, that they can just do what they do right in the light of day. Remind us all, Lord, that this is a temporary state of affairs, that your kingdom is coming, that you have built your kingdom, and you have told us that the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And we believe in your will and your word, and we stand here just thankful to be a part of that divine plan. How it unfolds, thy will not mine be done, Lord. But know that myself and these brothers and sisters that are here with me, some of them who haven't even found their way back to the faith yet, they may not believe in you, but like I just told them, Lord, you believe in them. Soften their hearts even as you stiffen their spines. Because at some point, all these things that are coming to the light are only going to make sense when viewed through that lens. And if that's the moment that it takes to open their eyes, to pull the scales from their eyes and to open their hearts, Lord, that's the moment that we bring them home. So help us to do our part for the kingdom, Lord, not to aggrandize ourselves, but for the glory of the kingdom. As I've asked before, send us into that valley of dry bones and let us raise you up an army, Lord. I ask for these things in the mighty name of Jesus, our high tower, our deliverer, our redeemer, King of kings, Lord of lords. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. Lord, may that day come quickly. In Christ's mighty name I ask. Deus Vult and Amen. Love y'all, man. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. We're going to throw in that outro music, guys. You already know the drill. I'm getting back to work Wednesday. In the meantime, if you guys want to throw something into the collection plate, I would certainly appreciate it. It's there. I'm going to toss it out there, that little digital collection plate. I'm on PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, yada, yada, yada. If I've done you any good, if I've shaped anything, if I put a little bit of positive energy into your mix, something that you needed to hear, you want to kick down, that's beautiful. But guys, ain't nothing required. Here's what I will ask you to do, though, if you would be so kind. If you got a social media feed of some sort, if you got a Facebook page, you got a Twitter feed, whatever, share the sermon. If you see posts that I'm making on these media platforms and you dig it, share it. Got to get that gospel out there, man. We got to expand the reach. Again, this ain't about me. This is about what we're trying to do for the kingdom. But here's what you can do. Stone, if you're here, hashtag live the three, baby. Live the three. What are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about, guys, if you've been here. But if you haven't been, welcome aboard. Live the three. The three prime directives, rules for living here on Planet Bart. Rule number one, you got to be signal in a world full of noise. What is the noise? The noise is all the confusions, the obfuscations, all the deceptions that he puts in your path. You've got to be the signal to break through that noise. You got to be the truth that is in that signal to break through all that noise. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness. And boy, they love that darkness. The adversary loves that darkness. He'll try to smother you with that darkness. Try to demonize, demoralize, dehumanize, emasculate you with that darkness. You have got to be the light, and moreover, you got to carry that light of truth to get through the other side of that long-lasting darkness. That's who you got to be, which leads me to the third rule, the iron rule, the prime directive. You have got to be strength in a world full of weakness, and I don't mean just strength. This is good, but it can be here, but it's got to be here. It's got to be here, fellas. Bet your ass it's got to be there. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you're not going to have that punch to get that signal through the noise. Without strength, you're not going to have the endurance to carry that light through the darkness. So strength above all things, man. And when you hit your knees at night, and you better be hitting your knees at night, you pray for that strength. But beyond strength, you also better be praying for clarity and discernment, man. Clarity and discernment, because in spite of how strong you may be, Father of Lies is out there looking to trip you up, looking to trip you with your own words, looking to throw obstacles in your path. You've got to be able to discern that good from that evil, that right from that wrong. When you're out there speaking the truth, you need that discernment. So pray for it. Hit your knees. Acknowledge his divinity. Put your face in some scripture and your ass under some iron, and I swear to you, your world is going to be a better place. I promise you, your world's going to be a better place. I wouldn't steer you wrong. God bless each and every one of y'all for being here. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Remember, guys, Boss Man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Let the Spirit work through you. God bless every one of you, man. Thanks for being here. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you. We'll see you next Sunday, man. Peace. Take care.